Alright, today we're doing lesson 5.4, which is multiplying mixed numbers. So you need to go to that lesson in your workbook. This question here comes from the launch at the beginning of that lesson. Your neighbor's garden plan grows to include tomatoes and pumpkins. The garden is now 4.5 yards long and 3.5 yards wide. What is the area of the garden now? Show how you found out. Well, if you take a look over here to the side, you see that you have 4 different sections of the garden. All right, we're going to first look at the section for just the corn. If you think back to our core bites and some of the other problems we've done all year long, think about the formula for area that we have used. We've used area equals the length times the width, so that's what we're going to use for all the sections here. And you've been taught that every time you find the area of something that you always start with your formula. So come over to the side and let's just find the area of the corn section. So if you have area equals length times the width, then you should have 3 times 3, and that gives you 9 yards squared. Okay, now if we look over here to the side or to the bottom, we don't have a measurement right here. But we should know that if up here at the top that is 3 yards, then they're assuming that you can figure out that the measurement down here would be 3 yards as well. So then to find the area of the section with the peas, remember we're going to use the same formula, area equals your length times your width, and this time we're going to do 3 times 1/2. Now, in a previous lesson, you should remember that any whole number you have, you're going to put over a number 1 to make it a fraction. So you should have 3 over 1 times 1/2. Then if you look crossways to see if you can simplify before you multiply, you look right here and your 1s are already as small as they can be, and your 2 and your 3 are already as small as they can be, so there's nothing you can do to simplify. So if you multiply straight across the top, you've got 3 times 1 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2. The problem with this answer is that it creates an improper fraction, and now we need to make it a mixed number. So you would say that 2 goes into 3 one time, with 1 left over, and your denominator stays the same. So the area for your peas is 1.5 yards squared. If you look over here to the section of the garden with the tomatoes, you notice that you're mixing a measurement here. It tells you that the measurement over here across the top is 1.5 yards. So just like we did for the peas, if you look opposite the tomato side over here, you have that one was 3 yards, so they expect you to know that this one over here is 3 yards. All right, so for your tomatoes, if we come over here, we're going to do area equals your length times your width, and you should have 1.5 times 3. Now this is putting 2 things that you have previously learned into place. You have a whole number and you have a mixed number. So you have to remember that you must change your mixed number into an improper fraction before you multiply. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 makes 3, and you keep your denominator the same. And you must put your 3 over a 1 to make it a fraction. If you look across your numbers here, you have a 1 and a 3 that can't be simplified, and you have a 2 and a 3 that can't be simplified. So you multiply across the top. 3 times 3 is 9, and 2 times 1 is 2. You have another improper fraction here, so you would think that 2 goes into 9 4 times. 2 times 4 is 8, so you have 1 left over, and your denominator remains the same, so you have 4.5 yards squared for your answer. Then the last little section we have to deal with over here is your pumpkin section, and we're missing both the measurements for this one. We don't have a measurement here, and we don't have a measurement here. So if you look opposite, you should know that this one here is 1.5, If you look all the way across the other side, you should know that this one here is a half. So you're going to multiply, we'll put pumpkins up here. The area equals your length times your width. You should have 1.5 times half. So here again, you must change your mixed number to an improper fraction. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Keep your denominator the same, and then multiply by 1/2. If you look crossways, nothing can be simplified, so 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 2 is 4, so your answer is 3/4 yards. Now, to find the total area of the garden, we need to go back and we need to add all of our final areas together. So we've got 9 yards here, 1.5 yards here, 4.5 yards here, and 3/4 of a yard here. So we've got 9, 1.5, 4.5, and 3/4. Well, 2 halves make a whole. So that's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and you have 3/4 left over. So 15 and 3/4 yards squared would be the total area of your whole entire garden. So you need to make sure that you have this worked out on that page in your workbook. Now, we're going to practice this problem together. You have a mixed number times a mixed number. You should already know that you have to change a mixed number to an improper fraction before you can multiply. So rewrite your problem on your notebook paper. If this is not in your workbook, this needs to go in your notebook. So you have 6 3/4 times 7 1/3. Some of you may be able to do this in your head. Some of you may need to use scratch paper. You do whichever you need to do. Remember that you're going to do 6 times 4 is 24, and 24 plus 3 gives you 27. So you should have 27 for your numerator, and you keep your denominator. So 27 over 4 is your first fraction, times, remember 3 times 7 is 21, and 21 plus 1 is 22. So you have 22 over 3. Now, you need to look both ways to see if these can be simplified. If you look across here, you've got 4 and you've got 22. Well, nothing times 4 gives you 22, but those are both even numbers. And any even number can be divided by 2. So 4 divided by 2 leaves you with 2, and 22 divided by 2 leaves you with 11. Now, if you look across the other way and you have 3, you're going to have 3 that can go into both numbers an even number of times. So 3 will go into itself 1 time. 3 will go to 27 9 times. Okay? So now we have 9 times 11, which will give you 99, over 2 times 1, which will give you 2. So 99 is your, over 2 is your final answer for this problem. Okay. So, here's another example. An art club is making a mural for the wall space shown in the diagram on the right. What is the area of the wall space available for the mural? So right now they have it labeled 4 1/5 by 5 5/6. Okay? Again, first thing you do, turn it into an improper fraction. This is the same as 4 times 5, which will give you 20. Add your 1, which is 21 over 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Add your 5 is 35 over 6. Now I want you to multiply across the top and across your denominator and figure out what answer you get. Pause the screen while you solve it and figure out what your answer is. When you figure out your answer, show your teacher to get approval. Okay, so we talked about solving the problem 21 over 5 times 35 over 6. And the last unit we talked about simplifying before we solve it, and sometimes you can simplify after we solve it. I like to simplify first. So the first thing that stands out to me is the 5 and the 35. I see that 5 can go into itself 1 time, and 5 can go into 35 7 times. All right, the same thing with 21 and 6. Now, 6 is not going to 21, but there is a common multiple that 6 and 21 have in common, and that is 3. 3 can go into 6 2 times. 3 can go into 21 7 times. Okay? Multiply across. Your numerator is going to be 7 times 7, which is 49. And your denominator is going to be 1 times 2, which is 2. Now, 2 and 49 can be simplified a little bit more and turned into a mixed number. So, 2 goes into 49. Well, 48 is an even number, so 2 can go into 48 24 times. Which is 48. To get 49, it's going to be 1 half left over. Okay? Let's move on to the next one. Alright, this problem says, Julius was getting tired of his plain old room. He thought he could use a change. Maybe I can paint a mural on one of my walls, he said. So Julius measured the wall right across from his bed and finds that it is 12 2/3 feet long and 10 1/4 feet wide. What is the area of this wall? Well, we know that area equals length times width. So the length of this area is 12 2/3 feet. Alright, we know the width is 10 1/4 feet. Okay? So all we have to do is lay this out the same way we laid the other ones out. It's going to be 12 2/3 times 10 1/4. Alright? Again, we're going to convert this into an improper fraction before we multiply straight across. I want you to try to do it on your own before you watch the rest of the video. So pause it now and solve it, and then share your answer with a neighbor and see if you got it right.